April 18th. Great to meet you here. Grab a coffee and let's get smarter together. And I promise you a wild story today. The Space Shuttle was retired in 2011, but while it was still used when it sat on its launch pad, it was attached to the orange-colored main fuel tank. Attached to that again on either side were two big white booster rockets. What do you think ultimately decided the size of these two rockets? Engineers? No. The engineers would have liked to make them even bigger, but they couldn't because these rockets were produced by Ficol, a company in Utah. And the rockets had to be transported from Utah to this launch site via railroads through gorges that were not much wider than the railroad tracks. Railroad tracks are as wide as they are in the US, 4 feet 8.5 inches. This is 143.51 centimeters, because the very first railroad were built by British engineers, and that was the gauge of their railroads. Why? Because the first English railroads were built by the same people who also ran the wagon tramways, that used to that exact same gauge. Why? Because the people who built the tramways had used the same jigs and tools they'd used to build wagons, which used the same wheel spacing. Why? Because the wagons were used on streets built by the Romans, built for the Roman Empire's legions, and more specifically, they were built for the legions' chariots' wheel spacing. And why were the wheels of a Roman chariot 4 feet 8.5 inches or 143.151 centimeters apart? Because that's the space you need to put the butts of two horses between them. So, in the end, the width of a booster rocket carrying the Space Shuttle into space was ultimately decided by the average size of a horse's butt in ancient Rome. I bring this up not just because it's funny, or because it illustrates very well how standardization, that's the exploitation of existing knowledge, locks our problem-solving capabilities into a box and thus hinders exploration. I bring it up because between the standardization of a space between the wheels of a Roman chariot and the design of a space shuttle passed 2,000 years. But the small change back then, deciding that a horse butt is just half of whatever the wheel gauge of an US train today is, had and has huge implications in our time. Not just on products, but on our thinking processes. Time amplifies. Between the first standardization efforts in Uruk and Mesopotamia in 3500 BC and the invention of coinage against a backdrop of generalized violence created by the descendants of heroic societies somewhere between 600 and 500 BC lay 3,000 years. It was then Alexander the Great in the 3rd century BC who destroyed the last remnants of human economies in the area to replace them with impersonal markets, which allowed ideas of materialism and concepts of profit to be unleashed. 2,000 years later, and we are convinced that the only way humans can live and should live is inside boxes in our head. But it all started with just a few people changing their attitudes just a little bit about exploration. Get out of the box. Explore, also known as think. Make a habit out of thinking. Let's turn thinking into a movement again. Like, comment, share, and follow lest you miss a single opportunity to improve yourself and society. And just like that, coffee break is over. Have a butterfly wing swinging rest of the day.